Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael J. Coyle with Mel Temple, and I'm here with Mr. Wolf Hoffmann. How you doing today, sir?
Fabulous, fabulous. It's a nice sunny day here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's 10:30 in the morning, and you're my first interview this morning, so I'm awesome. All up in good spirits here.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So the first question I wanted to ask is, since the release of Blind Rage, how's the reception been for that record?
Oh, phenomenal. I mean, we've toured on this album longer than we've ever had before, we just realized. Last night we were just talking, it's been a year and a half now that it's been released?
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah, and we've been, on the road ever since, and there's no stopping. We're going to go back out here in a month again, and then in the spring yet again, and after that, it's surely time to start working on a new album. But the reaction has been phenomenal.
That's incredible. Personally, out of all the new records, I would say that Stalingrad has been one of my favorites because it had this really different vibe to it compared to previous releases. I mean, as a fan on my part, I wanted to ask, what was the idea behind Stalingrad when that first came out in 2012?
Well, Stalingrad is, the song itself is based on a historic event, obviously, the Battle of Stalingrad, and we've always been sort of intrigued and interested in historic events and ongoing current political events. So this story just sort of wrote itself, basically, when we were inspired by watching a documentary about the Battle of Stalingrad.
Oh, cool.
And it's nothing more than that. It's just that one song was dealing with that story, and the rest of the album is just a collection of other stories and ideas that really had nothing much to do with that story itself. It's we never really wanted it to be a concept album or anything.
And then we come up to 2014 Blind Rage. What was the main inspiration for making that album and entitling it?
I mean, the inspiration for us to make an album is always the same. We just want to continue the legacy of Accept and write songs that are totally Accept style, but at the same time have something that's current and interesting. When we regrouped with Mark about 5 years ago, we always said to ourselves, we're not gonna be just sitting back on the past success and play the old songs. We wanted to start a new chapter and make albums that are relevant to fans.
Yeah.
And that sounds easy, but it's not really that easy, or else everybody would do it. But so we tried hard to come up with songs that totally feel familiar on one hand, but that on the other hand they sound modern and can compete with what's going on today. And with the help of Andy Sneap, who's not too far from where you are right now.
I know. Funny story. I actually saw Andy a couple of months back at the Exodus show over here in Manchester.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Everybody meets Andy sooner or later, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, he's a cool guy. I've met him before when he played Bloodstock with Hell.
Yeah. We're actually going to be playing together with him again very soon. He's going to open up for us in London when we play London.
Oh, nice.
With Hell. So that's going to be a nice get-together.
So, as a fan, I've always wanted to ask, growing up, what were your main inspirations to pick up the guitar and create the band that is now Accept?
Going back in time, quite a long ways. That is the late 70s, mid-70s, and the bands that we all listened to, and I personally also listened to, was Deep Purple, first and foremost. And Judas Priest came a little later. Then at the time we had bands like Queen and Status Quo, believe it or not, Uriah Heep. A lot of the hard rock bands from Britain, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And then our taste sort of developed more. It became heavier and heavier, and we started listening to Black Sabbath and Judas Priest, like I just said. And a big influence shortly after that was AC/DC. And somehow, if you mix all that together, that's our style.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to ask as well. I mean, it might be a typical question, but what was it about the Flying V that attracted you to playing it live and incorporating it into the band's image? Because we later on see a newer Accept logo with 2 Flying Vs, and I see that this is a very important symbol for you and the band.
That, I think the earliest inspiration was maybe from a band called Wishbone Ash, if you believe that.
Yeah.
Most people, I don't know how many people are still familiar with them. They were the first
very familiar
band that we know, that I can remember, who did twin guitar harmonic leads, and that influenced us. And one of the guys had a Flying V, and for some reason we thought 1 is cool and 2 is better, and we just both started playing them because they looked so cool on stage. You know, at the time it was very important for us to have a cool looking stage show, and we were very in tune with not only how we sounded but also how we looked on stage. And we always felt like, wow, Flying V's, like, not a lot of people had them back then, and sort of that gave us something special, and we loved it, and we kept it ever since. That's awesome. Became almost like a trademark for some. After a while,
it also works very well with the synchronicity on stage, because
exactly.
like for the video for Balls to the Wall, it's just that even synchronicity, and it's just very epic.
Exactly, and it's sort of over the years developed into some sort of a trademark.
That's awesome. So I have some fan questions here. People who are really interested in asking a few questions. It's why I do my interviews. If it's someone someone as big as you yourself, Mr. Hoffman. From Josh McGlynn from Stoke-on-Trent, he asks, if you could play one album in full, which one would it be and why?
Probably Rest Isn't Wild, because it's the most influential album, and it also has the most songs that are naturally already still in our set list to this day. Weirdly enough, you can always measure a quality of an album by how many songs you still want to and can play live. Rest Isn't Wild is a very special album to us, but at the same time, you could also pick maybe Blood of the Nations. There's a lot of songs on that album that we would, we could and would and still do play, but,
Nice. And as well, he asks, what are the lyrical inspirations behind a lot of Accept songs?
Well, you have to understand that back in the days when we got started in the early, mid-'80s, none of us spoke English very well. We were all young kids from Germany, but we had one huge advantage, and that was Gabby, our manager, later my wife. She wrote lyrics for us, and she was very well read and could actually express ourselves really well. And the only thing is, we didn't want people to really know that, because it didn't really, would have looked all that cool if a woman would have written, if it was known that a woman wrote songs like Balls to the Wall.
Nice.
And, so she used that pseudonym, Deffy, for all these years. But she was the one who wrote a lot of the lyrics, if not all, in those years. And still to this day, she gives us a lot of inspiration and a lot of thoughts about songs. She doesn't really do it per se word for word anymore, because we now have an American singer, Mark Tornillo.
Nice.
Who is very good at that. He's a great lyricist in his own right. So, but Gabby's still around, and she still delivers ideas.
Nice. So, looking back at your career in this band, and now looking at the future, what's this adventure been like for you personally?
Wow, crazy up and down and left ways and sideways, and it was just nothing straight at all, but very inspiring, very, very fascinating, and it still is. It continues. I wouldn't know anything else in life that would give me the same satisfaction and reward. And I've tried many things. I became a professional photographer. I've dabbled around in other things, and I've, produced bands. I've like I said, photography. It's all great and it's all fun, but nothing comes close to writing songs and performing songs for metal fans like we do now. It's just has such a long-lasting impact, and even, I mean, it has an impact right away when you're up there on stage and 50,000 kids sing along to your solos. But it also has a super long-lasting effect by releasing albums that 20, 30 years later, people still talk about them, you know, like we're doing right now.
I really think, in my honest opinion, that Accept is a massive and very important band in the metal community, because I feel that you guys brought something which a lot of bands weren't doing, and it was, well, for one, back in the day, it was Udo's voice. That was right. That was something different, but it was also the fact that your guitar work has an effect on a lot of younger kids, and I know a lot of I know everyone on the Manchester scene is either a Metal Heart fan or something else, but it's always the same story, that Accept has inspired a lot of bands within the scene, and it's incredible to still see the admiration for a band of your caliber.
Well, thank you very much, man. That's very kind of you to say that. I think a lot of these things, like, they could sort of happen out of necessity, and they sort of happen by themselves. If we would have had a different singer with a totally pleasant voice, we might have drifted off into some other more normal style, maybe, you know. But because we had no choice with Udo, you know, it's like either go all the way through the wall and do something that's quite outrageous and hope that people will like that just for the fact that it's different, or it would have been, you know, nothing, I think.
You know, it's funny, actually. Something that came to mind. When I got your request for the Skype call, it actually asked me to accept, which I found pretty funny. And that's what I just wanted to add that in there, because honestly, when I saw that, I nearly kind of lost it from him and thinking, "Oh God, this is too ironic."
It is, isn't it? Yeah, please accept me.
But yeah, I mean, for during the journey of being in Accept, what has been the most difficult experience, do you think, for the band?
Well, we had some difficult times when heavy metal was not en vogue and nobody wanted to hear about it, like all the other bands went through that. Yeah. In our genre in the 90s, you know, everybody knows when grunge came around and heavy metal was totally passé. It was rough for all of us, and that's when we broke up for a long time, and we, you know, just thought that we had run the course, and the time for heavy metal was maybe over. It was time to maybe do something else. That was my personal choice at the time. I said to myself, you know, rather than trying to have my own band that would always be measured by Accept standards and all that, I decided, you know, it's better to keep my head high and bow out gracefully and start something completely different, which in my case was photography. But then, about 5-6 years ago, I got called back by higher powers.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, looking back at that, yeah, I mean, there was a lot happening when grunge first came out, because a lot of people will call it either dinosaur music or some kind of medieval. I mean, it was on Metal Evolution that I actually watched this, and I really feel that heavy metal never went anywhere. It's just the way fads come into music, you know, and sometimes you really need to actually break through again to show people that how important this music is.
I mean, the staying power of this genre is quite amazing. I mean, if you look back 30 when we started, I mean, I still have some old posters here in my house that are dating back to the early 80s with Kiss and Iron Maiden and, you know, all these bands that we all played with over the years, and they're still there and we're still playing with them.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible. It really is. I mean, a lot of these bands now have a run of 30, 40 years, and there's no stopping them. Look at the Scorpions. I mean, they've been there before we were there. Yeah. And they're still around, and they're still amazing.
I know. I mean, I got to see them for my first time this year, actually, over at Hellfest.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It was incredible because, It's like I mentioned before the interview. Yourself and Michael Schenker were two of the main reasons I picked up a Flying V, because I used to see these old pictures of you guys when I was back in high school, and I thought to myself, I want one of those. I really want one.
I want one of those. Yeah.
It's just the.
And that's what happened to me. I saw that thing and thought to myself, I want one of those, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the stance that the poses you would make with the V were very inspirational. Like, it was like holding a part of yourself, something in that V. Because for one, I can see why you play a V. For one, because it's a really relaxed neck. There's nothing in the way, getting in the way of actually getting to those lower frets, which is always incredible.
Right. Yeah, it's the perfect metal guitar for me. I always like using a Strat in the studio.
Yeah.
Because it's much, I don't know, there's something about a Strat I've always liked, but on stage it's always been a V first and foremost. And funny enough, I now have a custom-made guitar by Framus, German guitar company Framus.
Yeah.
And they made the perfect hybrid guitar for me, where it's got a lot of the Strat features, but it still looks like a V, you know, and it is a V, only it's got a few custom things that a normal V doesn't have, so it's the perfect in-between. I've been using that for the last 3 years and couldn't be happier.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been following that information. Framus are an incredible company. They're the same company for Warwick. And, and
exactly.
You got people like Devin Townsend endorsing those guitars, and you've got two customs, don't you? You've got the cracked white, and then you got the that whole body finish. With the World War II plane, is it, or is it something else?
Yeah, it resembles a World War II bomber. We called it the Flying Fortress for obvious reasons. And very cool guitar. And they just recently made me another one for this Blind Rage release album last year, and it's got the theme, you know, the red album cover theme on there. I mean, amazing guitars.
Yeah, because I remember beforehand for Blood and Nations you were using a Jackson, if I'm correct.
Correct, yeah. I went away from Jackson and joined Framus, and like I said, couldn't be happier.
I mean, it's an incredible looking guitar, and honestly, it looks like a lot of fun to play.
It is. It's very light and very comfortable to play. You know, like a regular V, a lot of times feels to me like a plank. Yeah. And it is, you know, it's really just a square piece of wood.
Yeah.
As cool as it is, but I never liked the fact that it is not a little more rounded. You know, like a Strat's always got these contours on the body that feels so much nicer than when you put your arm on there, and then this, you know, that V plank.
Yeah, I get what you mean entirely.
But on stage, it didn't, you know, it's not it's still okay, but it's so much nicer when it's not like that plank. And so I'm super happy with that frame as a V now, because that has that sort of half-rounded body, and it feels so nice.
That's incredible. So to this day now, I mean, what's your rig like in terms of pedals and amplifiers?
Smaller and smaller, and I need less and less gear, because a world changed for me about 3 years ago when I started using Kemper amps on stage and in the studio. And for those who are not familiar with Kemper amps, to me it's like the next big thing that changes everything, because it allows you to feed your sound into the Kemper amp, and it plays back whatever sound you want it to.
Oh, wow.
So with other words, you can use your old favorite Marshalls or whatever amps you might have at the house and just feed it into that machine and take that little box, that Kemper amp, out on the road with you, and it plays it back 100% accurately.
That's incredible.
That sounds too good to be true, but it works.
Actually, yeah.
So that's what I've been using lately, wherever I go and wherever I am in the studio or on stage. And even though we've got this massive stage set, but you know, really what you hear is the Kemper amp.
Nice. So I guess we're down to our final 3 questions of the interview, because I don't want to hold you up for any future or later interviews. So number 1, whenever you go to a town when you're touring, do you ever take the time to explore the area and see what you can find for yourself, like something you never knew, or something you would take enjoyment in actually participating in?
Heck yeah. Been doing it for years and years and years. And usually when I'm in a town for the first time, and in the 80s and 90s, I was on this obsession to make sure I see all the important sites of the city and all that. I would actually read up a little bit and try to see the must-see places when I'm in town.
Yeah.
And lately, I'm sort of going away from that and just sort of wander the streets and try to get because I've been to most of these cities already at one time or another and have seen all the stuff already. But lately, I just enjoy catching the flair of a city, and usually together with Peter, my oldest buddy in the band, we are the ones who put on the walking shoes and explore the town and end up in some cafe somewhere, or just wander aimlessly through the streets.
There you go. And finally, because I've realized the time and also how long we've been on the record for the fans listening at home, because this interview is being recorded for YouTube, do you have anything to say to the fans at home? Any fans who are coming to the London show?
Man, I'm just glad we have fans worldwide for all these years. So I want to say thank you for anybody listening out there. I know we have an incredible amount of fans that have been with us for a long time, and I love the fact that they're there, and we say welcome to the newer generations. It's amazing now when we do live shows and look into the audience, there's a whole range of age groups down there, and it's amazing to just see those young faces also that are just discovering metal now. So yeah, big thank you to all of you, and hope to see all of you in London.
Well, Wolf, it's been fantastic getting a chance to talk to you, and I thank you very much for your time and this opportunity.
You bet. It's been my pleasure.
Have a great rest of the day, man, and I hope to see you in London if I can get.
Take care, Mike. Okay. Yeah, man. I'll see you.
See you, man. Have a great one.